You're listening to The Observing Eye. Pirate radio for the mind. Coming at you fresh from the computer hell cabin.
Hello, you beautiful lot. It's Friday, the 14th of April, and you all know what that means.
It's Friday, gotta get down on Friday, gotta catch my bus, eat my cereal, which seat shall I take?
That's right, it is the latest episode of The Observing Eye. Let's start with our usual routine, shall we? If you've been here before, you'll know the drill. We're going to take a brief moment to ponder and reflect upon the good things that have been happening for us this week. And now a few moments to consider and ponder the not so good. So in this episode, I want to look at the subject of consistency. The consistency. What is consistency then? Let's begin from the beginning, start from the definition. So from both a personal and a professional perspective, consistency is our ability to maintain a certain level of behavior, performance, or attitude over time, irrespective of any external influences or factors that might be pressing against us. In a personal setting, consistency can involve things like maintaining a daily exercise routine, keeping up with all of the crappy household chores that we have to do, the burden of being an adult and all that jazz, making time for self-care, maintaining healthy relationships with friends and family, showing up for people in social commitments or, emotional support, that kind of thing. Fundamentally, it's how dependable we are. Can someone trust us to show up? Professional examples can include things like meeting deadlines. I love the author Douglas Adams. He wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He refers to deadlines and he says, I love deadlines. I love the whooshing sound they make as they go by. I try not to do that these days. That was more my predilection when I was younger. So back to professionalism. So it's, consistency in our professional lives. It's maintaining that attitude, the quality of the work that we produce. It's our interaction with our colleagues. It's how effectively we communicate both up and down the chain. So why is consistency important? So you may well have come across the adage, consistency is key. It's a simple adage, another one of those words I like, but it's really, really important for us to remember. Consistency is the thread that binds together our fabric of success, both professionally and personally. It's an ingredient in our personality, our behavior, that enables us to build momentum, refine our skills, and achieve our goals. There's quite a lot that philosophy has to say around consistency, and you all know how much I love a good bit of philosophy. So Aristotle once said that we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Aristotle believed that our character is a product of our habits, and to achieve excellence, we must consistently engage in the activities that lead us to success. So this is his concept of consistency. We can look at Kant, the great Immanuel Kant, and his categorical imperative, where he argues that moral action should be consistent. That is, we should be able to apply the same rules to everyone without contradiction. This idea, it highlights how consistency plays into our ethical mindset, our moral compass, and how it can positively influence our decision-making process in that regard. Now, I'm going to set you a couple of questions before I carry on, and I want you to have these at the back of your mind whilst I prattle on about the benefits of consistency and some examples of being consistently shit, essentially. So the three questions I'd invite you to consider. Firstly, how has consistency played a role in your past successes or failures? Number two, can you think of a time when being inconsistent held you back from achieving a goal? And number three, what habits or routines can you adopt to increase consistency in your life? Hopefully, I'll be adding some filler that will help you answer those questions if you're struggling. But keep those three at the back of your mind whilst I continue. Let's have a look at some negatives, right? Let's look at some examples of inconsistency, of having poor consistency, and then we can move on to discuss how we can improve our own consistency, both personally and professionally. What does inconsistency cause then? It's not great. It doesn't give us any particular positives in our lives. I'm going to give you some examples. So firstly, lack of progress. So consistency is essential to us making progress in whatever aspect, be that personal or professional development. If we're not consistent, we're really going to struggle to make improvements because we aren't maintaining habits or discipline to improve upon areas that we feel we need to. There's unreliability. We've all got that friend, haven't we, who's massively flaky, who says, yes, I'll come out, and then never shows up, or agrees to things and then just bails at the last minute. Now, personally, that can be a pain in the backside. Professionally, it means your employer isn't going to trust you, essentially. And trust is a fundamental aspect of any relationship. So being consistent can be a huge bonus in our professional lives. We can miss out on opportunities if we aren't consistent because we aren't paying attention. We aren't exercising good habits and good discipline again. We can cause ourselves stress and anxiety because if we aren't consistent and if we aren't disciplined, it makes it really difficult for us to manage the responsibilities that we all have as adults. And finally, discipline. Consistency is a key factor in developing discipline, and discipline is a huge help, irrespective of what we're doing. Discipline is so important to making progress towards any sort of goals that we set to ourselves. Without discipline, there's no habit, there's no progress, nothing changes. And it goes back to that stress and anxiety and potentially creating feelings of frustration and issues with self-worth because we have these ideas of where we want to be, but we're never getting anywhere because we aren't consistent, because we aren't being disciplined. So how do we improve our consistency? I've got another list for you. I've written some stuff down for this episode. I've prepped, which is good, which is unusual. I try to sometimes. Sometimes it just rolls off the tongue. But anyway, the list of being consistent. So firstly, it's really important that we set very clear and achievable goals. Clearly defined goals give us direction and focus. And if a goal is too big, then we need to break it down into much smaller components and milestones. And we need to keep an eye on the progress that we're making throughout. Try not to aim for something that's too large and too far out of reach, because there's no point in trying to strive for something that's going to be too challenging, particularly at the beginning when you're building discipline, when you're building consistency. It's the whole reward system, right? We want to be able to feel like we've actually accomplished something. if we never accomplish something, it's like all of our effort that goes into it is futile because the goal is never attained, and it just doesn't do us any service, essentially. We need to develop routines and habits. So creating a daily or a weekly routine that helps support us in achieving these goals. Remember what Aristotle said, consistent action becomes habits, which in turn shapes our character and leads to success. So let's create consistent habits. And again, let's make them achievable. If it helps, get a calendar and write down when you need to do things, and use that calendar as your kind of Bible, in a sense. The immutable things in that calendar need to be done, and that can help form those habits for you. We need to be effective at managing our time. Time is finite, as much as we may not wish to believe that. We have to prioritize tasks and allocate time efficiently, because if we don't, then it becomes more difficult for us to achieve the goals that we set out to. Time is important. Manage it well. We need to be accountable. If it helps, share your goals and aspirations with friends or family members and make them hold you accountable for it. You need someone to kick you in the ass when you're not being consistent, when your discipline is waning. I think that's a massive help, to have someone there that is going to hold you accountable. We need to look at what we're doing, and we need to be aware of it, and we need to adjust it if necessary. So it's important to assess our progress and adjust our habits, our routines, if we need to. Maybe we've created a daily or a weekly routine, and it's just not really working because of other time constraints and commitments and things that come up. So if something isn't working, iterative improve. I always do this. There's always one point in the podcast where I fuck up the words. Iterative improvement is the key. Review, assess, change. Review, assess, change. Yeah? Cycles of that. We need to, coming back to discipline, we got to cultivate that discipline, people. We need to strengthen habits, and we need to push ourselves, and we need to get out of our comfort zone. Creating discipline and consistency is not necessarily a comfortable act. So we're going to have to, bite down and just push on with some of this stuff, even when we don't feel like doing it. I get days when I'm doing these podcasts, for example, and my consistency, my discipline is putting out one every Friday. And don't get me wrong, there are days when I'm thinking, fuck, I don't know what to talk about. What am I going to say? Is anyone even listening? Are they going to miss it if I don't put this out? But no, that is not a good way to think. And I have to recognize that and be like, whoa there, David. Calm your titties. Get your ass to that computer and start recording. Even if you haven't got an idea, something will come up. Put yourself in the position to do it. Even if you're not feeling in the mojo, just do it. Push yourself. And the more you push yourself, the more you get out of your comfort zone, the more you'll cultivate that discipline, and the easier it will become for you to sit and do whatever work you need to do to get to those goals that you've set for yourself. So overall then, consistency, it's a really powerful tool. It's a propellant towards personal and professional development and success. So let's get consistent. That's all I have to say on the subject of consistency. As always, I hope that this has been of some use and I'm not just screeching into the void. I wish you all a wonderful weekend. Think about some habits that you can form this weekend. Think about how you can be more consistent, things you can do to improve what you're doing already. And think about some goals. Think about purpose. What is it that you want to achieve and how can you get there? Maybe draw a little roadmap Scribble some ideas down on a piece of paper. See what happens. Much love, everybody. And I'll catch you soon.
You've been listening to The Observing Eye. Thanks for spending some time with me today. I hope that you found it useful. And if you're interested in any more of my writings or work around psychology and philosophy and general day-to-day living, please go and take a look at my Substack, which is theobservingeye.substack.com, and that's I as in the letter, not I as in the gelatinous organ through which you see. Take care, everybody. Much love, and I'll see you soon.